Hi, Conan with Small Tractor Services here. Today I'm going to show you how to recondition your gravel driveway. The main tool to use when reconditioning a gravel driveway is a Landplane. I'll show you how it works in action. Oftentimes when I start a driveway, the first thing that needs to be done is to remove that hump that's in the middle of many driveways. That hump gets there because as you're driving, it's pushing that gravel back up to the middle. You don't drive on the hump very often, and so it makes it very easy for weeds and grass to accumulate in there. And then of course they die off and they create dirt. So usually I use my box blade to rip that off, then the loader to get rid of it. So here, let's take a look. You'll get to watch. You're gonna make sure that your tractor's in four-wheel drive and is also in low gear. I need that torque to pull this. Put my seatbelt on, safety first. Drop down. There's my Landplane drop down. And all I'm gonna do is just drive forward, making sure that I have the loader up off the ground, and it's gonna start to pull that gravel up, put it into that void in between the two blades, and then drop it right back down in a nice smooth fashion. It's gonna drive forward and let the Landplane do its work, which is that it's ripping up the top layer and it's laying it back down in a very, very smooth surface. Now remember, it's not concrete. We're not getting a flat, perfect surface, but if you've got those humps and bumps and puddles, you'll be in better shape when we're done. Now again, it's super important that we make sure that the gravel that we're working with is wet. If the gravel isn't wet, it is going to separate out. That means that the big pieces of gravel, we're using 5/8 with fines in it here, they're going to end up separating out from the fines. We do not want that. If we end up with the gravel separating out into two different sections, or 3 or 4, depending on kind of the size of the aggregate within the gravel, well, then it's not going to smash back down and make a nice solid surface that can last quite a long time. So we got to make sure that we have the gravel wet. No point in even doing the job if the gravel is not wet. I mean, it might maybe with the better looking at the get-go, but over time it's going to be terrible. Gravel must be wet. And that's why it's great to do these jobs in the fall, because during the fall we get a little rain, keeps it wet, no problem. I love doing these jobs in the rain. All right, then as you can see at this point, I certainly do have things smoothed out in general, but I also need to smooth it out just a little bit more, also compact it. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use my blade in order to back drag it very lightly, smash it down. So here we go. I'll try to get out of your way here so you can see nice and smoothed out, nice and smoothed out. There's always gonna be a seam or two, but I just grab my manual rake and rake that out so I get rid of those seams before I'm done. Bring this back down. I'm gonna park it for just a second. And next up, we're going to talk about potholes, just so you can see that this thing can get rid of those potholes very quickly. But right here next to the bucket, I've got a pothole. Just going to drive the tractor right through it so you can see the tractor go up and down. Then I'll fix it, and you'll see that it looks a lot nicer and is much more functional for driving over. I'm going to bring up the RPMs. I mean, when you got 25 horsepower, you want to let those horsies sing. So here goes the front wheel. It's going to go down. Bang. Here comes the back wheel. Bang. So again, I'm scraping up that top layer. And I'm carrying a little, dropping a little, just smoothing it out. And here goes the hole. Bucket's going to move a little bit to the side. There we go. Bucket's in the same spot though, just for clarity. It didn't move forward or backward. So let's run the tractor over it and see what we got. Just running my wheel over it so I can show you it's gone. Here we go. Going very slow. There it is right there. There's my back tire. As you can see, it's already smoothed over. Now again, remember, if this were dry and I was compacting it, it would bring all the larger rock to the surface. We don't want that. We want it all mixed in because that's how we can get it nice and compact. Then if I was finishing up, the final step would be to simply wheel roll it. And by that I just mean use the weight of the tractor to compact things down. If I have some extra material of some kind, I would likely put it in the front bucket so I could get a little bit more weight to the tractor, so I was really compacting down. But right now I don't have any, so we'll just wheel roll it real quick. And once I've wheel rolled it a few times, it's in a pretty good position, compacted down, and your driveway's in great shape. So that's my how-to on how to recondition your gravel driveway. Of course, it doesn't apply just to gravel driveways. If you have a large parking area or anything where there's a lot of gravel, this is the tool for it. Instead of bringing in a ton of pretty expensive material, meaning more crushed rock or gravel or whatever it is you want to use, perhaps it makes sense to go with the cheaper option, which is to use what you have and to recondition it. Whenever possible, I always offer to my customers, let's recondition it first, and then if you want to, let's put some more material on it, because it's almost guaranteed that reconditioning it is going to be far cheaper than putting that material on. Now, there are cases where I can't recondition it. For example, if you've got this much gravel, maybe a ½ an inch, and right underneath it I can tell it's native soil, doing this isn't going to do it. We're going to have to, in that case, bring some more gravel in and build it up. But then in the subsequent years, if you want to recondition it, you're set to go. So thanks so much for watching my how-to video on reconditioning driveways. I appreciate your time. Don't forget to check me out on smalltractorservices.com. Thanks. Put my seatbelt on, safety first.